Show me the money.
Hey, it's me. Knock, knock. So, you got my money?
Think about it. You're dealing with numbers all day long. Decimal points, high frequencies, bang, bang, bang. Digits, all very acidic, above the shoulders mustard shit. Right? Kind of wig some people out. Right? You gotta feed the geese to keep the blood flowing. Now keep the rhythm below the belt.
I want to stay in Arizona. I want my new contract. Show me the money! Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money!
Where's my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man?
Welcome back to Cap Strapped. I'm Max Dean, and you can find me on Twitter at PanAmFootball. Today we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars salary cap situation as the final part of our AFC South Divisional deep dive. We'll be doing every other division in the coming weeks, but today it's all about Jacksonville. If you like what you see, hit subscribe and throw me a like. We're doing tons of content just like this, and I've been working hard, so I would appreciate it. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are also in their rookie phase as far as a team building strategy is concerned. They've only had one draft in the books. They had a lot more draft picks than the Texans, so they're able to immediately infuse their roster a little bit more quickly. But what we're going to do today is take a look at some of the other moves that they've made to reshape the roster in Urban Meyer's vision. So let's dive right in. So again, right off the bat, I'm giving you a few different pieces of information here. First of all, we've got the cap hits from all of the top 51. Now, I do insert the draft picks from this year into the very bottom, just because it's so unlikely that they get released that I like to include them in the top 51, even though their cap hits are often slightly lower. Then you've got the APY, so average value per year for salary. So you get to compare how much are they on the cap for this year versus how much do they actually make per year. You've got notes, so we got franchise tags, Cam Robinson. You'd have fifth-year options, if there were any. And then every single player who's still under the rookie contract for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if the Jaguars drafted you and they still have you under contract and you haven't signed an extension yet, I made a note of that here, just so that you can see how many of those rookie contract players make up the roster. They have a few, notably a few because they had so many picks this year. I mean, just this year alone, you're looking at Trevor Lawrence in the first round, Travis Etienne in the first round. You've got Tyson Campbell in the first round. You got, I think, Walker Little in the first round. And then on top of that, you've got third round pick Andre Cisco as well. So that's a bunch of guys that are going to be in the top 51 just from the early rounds of the draft this year. You got a couple of second round picks mixed in there from the previous years. You got Jawan Taylor, you got Laviska Shenault, previous first round picks, Caleb Von Chason, CJ Henderson. They've had a bunch of picks in the past couple of years. Now, let's talk about some of their investment over on the right here. We've got investments substantially at linebacker and interior offensive line. Now, a lot of this has a reason, but generally speaking, linebacker and interior offensive line are some of your less valued positions. So why is it that the team is so invested at those positions compared to others? Well, I would say largely because they've had so many draft picks that they've used at premier positions over the past few years. I mean, just since 2019 alone, or let's go back to 2018. In 2018, they've had first round picks at edge, interior defensive line, cornerback, and quarterback. So those are 4 out of their 6 premium positions. So the only one they haven't spent a first round pick on is a tackle, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. Well, guess what? They've spent second round picks, again at corner, tackle and receiver in recent years. So, they've made a lot of high draft investments at premium positions, which leaves available cap space for non-premium positions. And if you want to have a powerful interior to help defend Trevor Lawrence as a rookie, that's fine by me. Now, how well they're paid may not necessarily directly correlate with how impactful they are, but I don't think that it's a major weakness either. Defensively, I'm not really super high on the team just because they're so young. And we haven't really seen guys, see exactly how they're going to handle themselves. They also have added a ton of new players. So chemistry could be a thing as well. Then looking at the top, the most expensive players versus the least expensive, they are not a superstar team by any stretch of the imagination. Their highest cap hit is $15 million, and that's for guard Andrew Norwell, who actually has a $9 million average per year. And then beyond that, they've got a couple of guys in the low $10 million range, and that's it. No superstar level players. I would say Miles Jack is literally the closest, and even he is, while being very good, perhaps not superstar. I'm not sure what qualifies as superstar necessarily. Maybe he would be one if he played in a bigger market. And then if you look at the bottom end of the roster, you've got, that were not draft picks this year. You've got guys who are in the high 900,000s. So pretty average as far as that goes. We're going to look at the concentration of roster makeup here in just a second. But basically, this tells me that they're a team that didn't want to make any wild investments because they're building largely through their, draft, their own roster infusions that they're building up. So the Jacksonville Jaguars are not the most lucrative of franchises compared to other NFL teams like the Giants or the Washington football team, 49ers, Cowboys. Their bottom line is a bit lower in terms of their overall profit margin, which means they usually can put a little bit less back into the team. A lot of the moves they've made this offseason have directly correlated to making more money, and that's not necessarily a greed thing so much as it's a business. And if you look at what other teams earn, they're trying to get a little bit closer. So they're trying to maximize their market. And to do that, they brought in guys who are already superstars in that market. Trevor Lawrence, already a superstar in that market because of his proximity in Georgia and Clemson. Urban Meyer, already a superstar in that market because of his success at Florida. Tim Tebow, already a superstar in that market. And so that stuff won't necessarily correlate to direct, immediate improvement as a team, but it will correlate very directly to an immediate improvement in overall finances for the team. There's no question about that. It doesn't necessarily mean that Urban Meyer or Trevor Lawrence are bad moves, but they are obviously financially motivated. You can just see that with the Tebow thing as well. It verifies something that was already pretty clear in my opinion. Now the differential here between cap usage and total APY, we have about 17 million. My guess is, 27 million. Yeah, 27 million. That would be largely because of that 7 million in dead cap. My guess is that they would probably want to be a little bit closer in terms of cap usage versus total APY differential. I bet if they didn't have this dead cap from prior regimes, you'd be looking at something that would be closer to, 15 to 20 million APY differential. If not even slightly less. Now, I could be wrong. My prediction I predict that they'll kind of look towards the Chris Ballard mold because they're both smaller market teams, and they'll look to try and accumulate those players in the Moneyball style. But I could be totally wrong about that. I could be completely wrong. Urban Meyer might go balls to the walls over the next few years and just try and get better and better by adding more expensive players. But I would say that if he's really studied the league and he knows how to maximize his market, that's probably the direction that he would and should go. So when you're looking at the offensive versus defensive investment on the salary cap here, pretty similar, pretty close. Not too dissimilarly from Houston, evenly distributed. Their special teams and dead cap are not wildly different. Actually, they're not supposed to be identical. That dead cap is supposed to be $699, and I think I just typoed it. I think I just clerical errored there. But their defense and offense are almost identical for all intents and purposes. So they're not significantly more invested in any one place. Like I said, a lot of their premier positions are very cheap for them right now. And they have one high defensive non-premium investment group and one very high offensive non-premium investment group. So interior offensive line and linebacker respectively. So next up we have our graphic where we're looking at the roster breakdown. How many guys do they have highly paid? How many guys do they have that are paid on the lower end? Right now, the Jaguars are the most middle tier investment out of anybody else. So I've said before, 30 plus million, franchise quarterback, 20 to 29.9, elite premium position players, 10 to 19.9, that's elite non-premium guys, and very good premium guys. Then 5 to 9.9, there's going to be high first round picks and mid-range to upper mid-range vets. 2 to 4.9 is going to be mid to lower range vets and later first round picks, and then everything 1.9 and less, those are going to be low level vets, so vet and vet minimum guys, as well as any pick in the second round or later. So when we're looking at that, that tells us pretty easily that there's no franchise quarterback, no elite premium players. We have a number of guys that make up this 10% in the the non-premium elite range. So those are the guys, the guards, the center, Miles Jack, I think Joe Schobert, I can't remember exactly what he makes. It was just on the other page, but I forget. And then, so those elite level paid guys who play non-premium positions. Then you go down to the 5 to 9.9 range, 20% there. That comes from all of those first round picks, all of those high first round picks. They've had 5 first round picks in the last 3 years. So there's no surprise that that's a bit higher. Then you mix in just a number of mid-range guys that they've signed. And with the overall number of draft picks in general, the way that rookie contracts are structured, there's always lower cap hits early, and then it progressively goes up as time goes on. That's why you have this high 47% in terms of cap numbers in that range, because a lot of those players, even if their APY is a little bit higher, their cap hits are low early. It's a little protection for the team if they end up not being that great at players, and a little bit of incentive and bonus for the player that they'll get paid a little bit more and a little bit more each year they manage to stay in the NFL. So we're just going to look at a couple of interesting contracts now on the Jaguars. Because of the way the team is structured, there's not too many guys that are really anything unusual or really worth taking a closer look at. But I just picked a couple of guys. One interesting one would be Shaq Griffin, the corner who came over from Seattle as a free agent this year. Interestingly to me, they guaranteed him a lot. He had a fairly player-friendly contract structure for a guy who is only making $13.333 million. Now, it's nothing to shake a stick at, but it's not super big-time corner money. It's 11th in the NFL in terms of corner APY, and he's third on the team. They clearly wanted him. And it doesn't really bode well for C.J. Henderson, I'm not going to lie, because they invested at corner early in the second round. I mean, the 33rd overall pick is basically a first-round pick. And they handed out substantial guarantees to Griffin here, so we will see how they feel about him. Just looking at this, he's got a low cap hit this year. I think, that was probably to do with the fact that the team has dead money, like I mentioned before, because I'm not really sure I see a reason for it with a team so fresh in their rebuild. But I guess they wanted to do it because of that, because they had plenty of cap space. But it just, if for whatever reason he doesn't work out, it's just like, he's been a fine player, but it's just, it's a little risky to me. If he doesn't work out this year at all, that's a bit of a weight for a player, a future weight that I just don't think was necessary, because you could pay him exactly the same this year. You just don't have to make it hit in the future. But whatever the case, they've got a $12 million signing bonus, which splits up into these $4 million prorated bonuses over the course of 3 years. He has guarantees that run through his base salary for 2021 and 2022. So that 2022 salary is fully guaranteed as well. So that's why, if for whatever reason they needed to cut him next year, basically it's $19.5 million dead money hit. He has some guarantees that kick in for 2023, but only if he's still on the roster at the beginning of that league year. So not too many worries there. But the main reason that I pointed it out is just because I think that it's a little strange that they went with a low cap hit early as a team that I think entered the NFL last year, or this past offseason, with the most cap space of any team. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, when I see this, it makes me think maybe he's not going to go the Chris Ballard route. But I don't want to just rely on one player as an indication. But we'll see. We'll see. And the last one we'll look at is Cam Robinson. Robinson is on the franchise tag this year. His franchise tag number is $13.754 million, which ranks him at number 2 on the team, but then 15th for tackles. So that's a good value. I mean, I think at one point I said something along the lines of like, I'm not sure why they did that. I think you want to get better, but overall, 15th highest paid tackle, it's not really, it's not bad. It's not bad value. The question is, will they want to extend him, or was this just a instant move? Are they gonna look to Walker Little as the future? We'll see. We'll see. Again, to be honest, I included him just because there's not really that much interesting in Jacksonville from a contract perspective. And that's exclusively because their life cycle is so early that some of this stuff just hasn't really come up yet. They don't have those big time players ready for extensions. They don't have problem child that needs to be moved on from quickly. It's just kind of like, I'd be hopeful if I was a Jacksonville fan, and there's nothing to point and be like, that's really bad or that's really unusual. We can just speculate at this point, but that's still fun. So anyway, guys, that's the Jacksonville Jaguars salary cap portion of the AFC South Divisional Deep Dive. That's it for the AFC South. So once you see this, you can go back and check out all the other AFC South stuff and look to the future for these types of breakdowns for every other NFL team. So I will see you all next week.